5 brain-wise ways to cope with anxiety during COVID-19 and all other public crises. Our human survival instincts make us increase our anxiety level when we are confronted with threats to our safety, health, or well-being. Whether it is the coronavirus disease 2019, a terrorist attack, a weather event, or a geological occurrence, the increase in anxiety is normal and appropriate to the context. But you can apply any or all of the following tips to cope better and more quickly with any anxiety deluge. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm here today and I'm doing marvelous. If you are doing as marvelous as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 smart ways to cope with anxiety during COVID-19 and all other public crises. Number 1, reduce media consumption. This is just crazy. This is one thing you have to do right now. The media, as you know, is in the business of making money, right? So their goal is to earn ratings. So they may not always present the news objectively, but in a manner that elicits an emotional reaction out of you. As the saying goes, since if you are sensational, you're going to sell. So the idea here is that if you want to stay updated on the latest news related to the coronavirus or any other crisis that is going on in your area, do not blindly search for updates on the internet. Rather, you want to follow credible sources such as the CDC, the Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, or the World Health Organization. You can also contact your local healthcare provider. Now, let me quickly give a disclaimer here. This program is not about giving you any kind of medical advice. We're not specialists, we're not experts. We've done research and we are presenting to you the results of our research. I would say always enlist the help of a professional. Always follow what the authorities are saying. Always go to the source, to the real source, to the authoritative sources of information. And this, in this case, will be the CDC, will be the World Health Organization, or your state department, your state's health department. All right. So reduce your media consumption. Now, when I'm talking about media consumption, there is nowadays an emerging trend, which is mobile phone. People have apps, and those apps give you every 5 minutes breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. That's really bad. You want to cut off those apps. You want to mute them. You want to inactivate them. You probably can have one. But what I've seen, what our team has seen is that when you download, and here I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm talking about CNN, BBC, NBC, CBS, all those big media companies, the New York Times, they tend to have breaking news, quote unquote, breaking news every 5 minutes. And the question is, what is really breaking news? What qualifies as breaking news? So if you have an app, if you have your phone on all the time, you will be bombarded with breaking news around the COVID-19 and other ancillary crises going on right now. And that's bad. This is not a good way to cope with anxiety during this crisis. You want to reduce your media consumption. Now, if you work in an industry where you cannot turn off your phone, one thing you can do is that you can actually set up some time once a day, let's say at the end of the day, or twice a day, maybe around 12 or 12 and 6 p.m., where you just kind of catch up on the news. But it has to be a very short 5 minutes, 10 minutes update. Don't waste time sitting in front of the TV or watching videos all day long just to sort of have an update of what's going on. Number 1, reduce media consumption. Number 2, boost your coping skills. Now, if you need to use healthy coping skills if you're trying to manage anxiety. Using your coping skills becomes even more essential during times of heightened stress. Now, let's talk about some examples of coping skills here. Exercise. That's great. Go to the gym. If the gym is not open where you are, go out. If you have a park around you and you can just move around, go. If you have a dog, just go walk the dog. Go move physically, move. If you have a park around you, if you love hiking, hike. If you have a bike. You need to exercise. You need to use those muscles so that your metabolism gets back into traction. All right. You can also journal your thoughts and feelings. So after exercising your body, it will be fantastic to exercise your intellect, to exercise your emotion, to boost your emotional intelligence. Write down how you feel. Write down what's going on. Write down things you're trying to cover, the 5 W's plus the H. Why, when, where, how, who, what. Write it down. How do you feel at this very moment? Another way to also cope with anxiety during this crisis and all other public crises is to breathe deeply. Deep breathing exercises are very good, and you don't need a lot of time for this. You can do this for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Take the time to breathe deeply. In and out, in and out, in and out. Think of this as a game. You're just playing, you're just having fun. But believe me, if you can do this consistently and you sort of practice, and the more you become, I would say, the better you become at this, the better your whole situation, the well-being will be. And also you can try meditation. If you have some kind of practice or some experience, or you have some meditation classes around you, take those classes. Invest in your well-being. Invest in your future. Invest in your current situation. Invest in your safety, in your health. Because the thing here is that during time of increased stress, you may consider increasing the dose of your coping skills by using them more frequently, right? So let's say right now you exercise twice a week. During a time of crisis, you may consider exercising 3 times a week or 4 times a week to help you better cope with anxiety. So if you normally practice deep breathing exercises in the morning and at night, you may consider adding a 3rd session during lunch. Okay, the thing here is that boosting your coping skills is the right thing to do, because if you think about it, we are accustomed to increasing the dose of a medication to treat a physical or mental health ailment. And we can look at coping skills the same way, with the same perspective, and adjust our quote-unquote dose as necessary. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're also here having a conversation around 5 brain-wise ways to cope with anxiety during COVID-19 and all other public crises. And if you love the clarity and quality of the content so far, please consider subscribing to our channel and turn on the notification bell so that you can be informed whenever we drop a new show. And we do this every single day, rain or shine. Comment below, share this content. We want this to be as shared as possible so that people can have access to the info and better their lives and better their safety and better their health. If you like this content, and comment below. Now let's talk about the 3rd way. Acknowledge the cost of anxiety. Now, our brains are generally very good at focusing on potential threats, right? So if you look at Darwin and the evolutionary dogma, our brains are supposed to analyze, to evaluate the environment and make quick decisions. Now, our brains, unfortunately, are not designed to make us happy. They're designed to protect us by looking for potential threats and creating hypothetical what-if scenarios. So, consequently, humans often fail to maintain perspective and see the big picture, right? So let's say, for example, we're currently in a crisis, in a pandemic. We are in a public health crisis, and people are thinking about, the whole world will come back, everything will just crumble. The question is, of course, there is a cost to anxiety, but how much is it? Because living in fear will negatively affect the quality of our lives. So you need to find the balance between taking the proper precautions to protect yourself and living a fulfilling life, right? So you can, for example, if you are going to the gym and you know the gym might be an area where contamination could occur, Instead of going to the gym, you can switch running on the treadmill with running outdoors, right? This is an adjustment that, in my view, will strike the right balance between living a full life and also responding to the threat from the coronavirus in a responsible way. So you want to keep the proper precautions to protect yourself and your loved ones from the virus or any other public crisis, but don't fall prisoner to the anxiety. That's the thing. Anxiety stemming from the situation. Number 4, understand your odds. So what I'm trying to say here is understand your odds of getting the virus. Are you around people who are at risk? Are you around an environment that might be at risk? A good practice to lower your anxiety is understanding what are the odds that your fear will become reality. Because if you acknowledge that there is a low probability that a fear will become reality, you will reduce, consequently, anxiety. Right? So this is why you have to go to the CDC website and also contact or go to the websites of your state's health department and see what the authorities and the right sources, the right experts have put on the website in terms of risks, in terms of the odds of getting contaminated based on where you live. And once you do that analysis, you might see that in the end, your odds are very low of being contaminated. So you should adjust your anxiety accordingly. Because if you consider the extensive media coverage over the coronavirus, it may appear that the overall risk of being infected is extremely high. The question is it? I don't have the answer, but this is an answer you will have to find yourself by doing the research I just spoke about. So understand your odds and acknowledge the cost of anxiety. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are still having a conversation today around 5 brain-wise ways to cope with anxiety during COVID-19 and all other public crises. And I've already given you 4 very smart ways. Now let me talk about the 5th proven way to cope with anxiety during this crisis. Recognize what you can control. Okay? Now, if you just watch TV all day long, you might feel helpless and powerless. You might think, oh well, if I take any action, this is useless. This is futile. Now, such a position will only exacerbate your level of anxiety over the potential threat. So you want to take a moment to acknowledge what's within your sphere of control. There are things you can do to promote your own safety and protect your loved ones, right? So if you take those actions, not only would you lower the chances that you'll be infected, it can also make you feel empowered and give you a sense of control over the potential threats. So how do you recognize what you can control? The CDC, thank God, has done a great job at publishing specific guidelines to protect the public from being infected and further spread the coronavirus. So they include: wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching high-touch surfaces in public places. I'm talking here about elevator buttons, door handles, handrails, and handshaking with people. Wash your hands after touching surfaces in public places. Avoid touching your face, nose, and eyes. Clean and disinfect your home to remove germs. Avoid crowds, especially in poorly ventilated places. Avoid all non-essential travel, including plane trips and cruise ships. Okay, so if you kind of follow all these things, and this is something you can control, this is something that is within your control. This is a lifestyle choice. Traveling, for example, or going to a concert in a closed quarters. That's something that you decide and something you can control. So if we follow the authorities, what the authorities have put on the internet and have said for the last 3 months, If you follow that, your anxiety will actually go down because you are in control and you can do what you can control, and that's wonderful. All right. So this is today a short conversation I wanted to have with you around the 5 brain-wise ways to cope with anxiety during COVID-19 and all other public crises. What are the 5 ways? Reduce media consumption. Boost your coping skills. Acknowledge the cost of anxiety. Understand your odds. Recognize what you can control. I'll talk to you another time. But until then, remember, stay safe.